Welcome to the Referrals Podcast, the show designed to help everyone from the solopreneur to the Fortune 500 company win the referral game. If you want to build a company with an army of ambassadors and raving fans who speak highly of you and refer you willingly, you are in the right place. And now, here is your host, Michael J. Maher.
Welcome everyone to another amazing Referrals Podcast. You've made us number 34 in the United States. Are you kidding me with that? Like 10,000 downloads a week. You guys are kicking butt. Thank you for listening, watching. But here's what you're doing more than ever is you're referring us. You are sharing what we're doing with others, and just know how much that is appreciated. Thank you so much. I have to give a big shout out real quickly to Sylvia Grady out of Hawaii. You gotta love that. I absolutely loved the Summerfest challenge. My favorite challenge was the morning silence time as part of the morning ritual. I need this quiet time in the morning. Practice makes perfect, right? I will definitely continue this. I love Summerfest. If you're interested in Summerfest, please check it out in the Join Gen Gen group, joingengen.com. Join the Generosity Generation. It's one of the largest, most powerful referral communities on the web. That's joingengen.com. You can also check out our flagship event. Our annual convention is Referral Mastery Summit. Check it out at rms22.com. Right to the, I'm not going to hide the lead. I'm not going to bury the lead on today's show. We're going right to the source because it is so timely to talk about what is going on in the real estate market today. We have an expert who is a regular on the Referrals Podcast. He's been here several times, always in demand, always here to give us great content and keep us up to date on the marketplace. David Childers is the VP of Content and Marketing at Keeping Current Matters, which is a working real estate agent's personal research department. Beyond just keeping agents aware of market trends, Keeping Current Matters aims to equip agents with the knowledge they need to stay relevant to their clients and to be better equipped to answer any question that comes their way. And oh my God, are the questions coming their way right now on the real estate market? David Childers, welcome back to Referrals Podcast.
Thank you, Michael. I'm excited to be back. Always good to be with you. Love everything that you're doing and making an impact. And yeah, there are a few questions, right now in the real estate business. So let's tackle those. And let me tell you, and let's maybe have a conversation, ask me what you're hearing, if things spark that. But I'll tell you, there are kind of three things right now that I think I'm going to call two of those what people we're working with are wondering about. And one of those is maybe something that us in the business we're wondering about. First is what's going on with interest rates and what's going to happen? Like what is this all about? And I'll kind of let little secret there. I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen with interest rates. I can tell you people that follow it and they're experts. They don't even know what's going to happen, but I will show you what you can do with your clients because the Fed has told us what they're doing. And I'm going to break that down in just a minute out of Fed Powell's statement last week. They gave us the roadmap. They told us what we're going to be up against. And I'm going to give you that. The second thing is, okay, all of this, the fever pitch of are we heading into a recession? What does that mean? I'm going to break that down for you. And then the one that I think is in our business is what's production going to look like this year? I know a lot of folks in real estate, loan officers, different folks listening. It's going to be different things, but I'm going to break down transactions for you and how that is looking right now. So all of that, I think right now is a time where a lot of people are asking questions. Here's my hope, Michael, for the next 20 or so minutes. Yeah. Is that I give you the information, and I'm going to give you a bunch of graphics that you can tell them how to get those. Yeah. That people can use coming out of this conversation to provide certainty with those they're working with. Okay, so that's really my goal during the next few minutes.
I love it. I want to hear on the rates. Like, what are you seeing out there? What do you think on there? And how does that? How do we translate that? Right?
Yeah. So let's talk about that. I'll give you. I won't share it right now, but again, I'll give all this to you if you're listening and you want to grab it. You can. But if you look at interest rates starting the first week of January to where we are today, we started out right at 3%, 3.1% the first week of January. We're up at 6% right now as we're recording this. And it's just been this arrow of, quickly and dramatically, rates have risen 3 percentage points, since the beginning of the year. And for a lot of borrowers, let's get real. Let's define reality. I think that is what we have to do as leaders. It's hurt. Like there's a little bit of pain involved in that, right? We qualified at this level and now we can only afford this. And gosh, we have to rethink this. Okay, so I level set with that. I'm not telling you anything you don't know right now, but we've seen this quick and dramatic rise. Interest rates right at, I'm going to call it 6%, maybe some above that, some below that, but we're in a high rate scenario based on really the last 2 years. And I'm going to give you the punchline to some of this. The bottom line of the last 2 years and what we saw in the rate environment in the real estate market were anomaly years. Mm-hmm. And I think if we're going to compare anything today to the last 24 months, you're making a mistake. You're making a mistake in the interest rate environment. You're making a mistake in the production environment, and I think it's all about understanding where we're at and where we're going. And I'm going to kind of break that down. But Freddie Mac measures the weekly mortgage rate. This past week was the largest 1 week surge in interest rates since 1987. Yeah. Okay, so this dramatic jump is where we're at. Now, I told you before, I can't tell you where we're going to go. I'll tell you how to break that down, but the Fed showed us exactly what they are doing. Now, hopefully if you're listening to this, you've been in the business, you understand the Fed does not control mortgage interest rates. They control the Fed funds rate, which they raised by 75 basis points. And that sort of, caused all of this in the market. They can't control mortgage rates, but they certainly can influence mortgage rates.
That's right. Okay, and the mortgage companies really anticipated the raise a little bit because the rates were already going up, right? And
sure. So essentially what happened the beginning of the year, what caused this rise in the first really 4 months of the year through April, is the Fed came out and said, we're going to raise rates this year, right? And I would say this, Michael, I'm not as concerned. The Fed's kind of off here to the side. What this is all about is inflation. Mm-hmm. Let's just get real. Like it's about inflation.
I literally wrote that word down. Right.
Their work is to stem inflation. Yep. Okay. So you want to know what's going to happen, watch inflation. But so the Fed says we're going to come out, we're going to raise rates every meeting this year. And the market sort of prices that in. Mm-hmm. And what you see happen last week as we're recording this, the first meeting in June, the Fed basically came out and said, hey, we don't think we're doing enough. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, that was a tough statement for any of us, in inflation. Like you're like, okay, maybe this is the peak. And they clearly said, this isn't, and we're going to do a little bit more, right? Yeah. And this is portending to their next meeting. And the question is, do they feel that way again, right? But let me break down, and I'm going to share this graphic. If you're listening, you can go grab this graphic, but I'm going to read it. It's a quote from Fed Chairman Powell's statement. Okay, and let me share my screen so that I can get this for everybody. That's go ahead.
Yeah, you should be able to. Yep.
Yeah.
And the thing is there is an actual, like if somebody's been looking at $500,000 homes and they're pre-approved to $500,000, and with the increase, they're now looking at $450,000, maybe $440,000 homes, and that's tough on a buyer. Because once you see that higher priced home, you're now looking for that at a lower price. It's almost impossible. Having to re-educate the client on that is a daunting task. But that's the reality of it right now, is you're going to have just to reset those expectations, Yeah. So I love where this conversation is going, and it is about inflation, right? And it's like prices are going up. And you know what? Real estate's had inflation. Sure. Right. I mean, the prices have gone stupid levels.
Right. Well, I would also argue, before I say what Fed Chairman Powell said, because I'm going to break down what they're doing. Yeah. What are the two things we've prayed for the last 2 years? That homes wouldn't appreciate as fast as they would, and we'd have more inventory. Guess what the two things are we're getting? Right
we're be careful what you wish for, right, David? I mean, I think we're going to have some of that. So you are able to share, right?
Yeah. I'm good. So let me share this graphic real quick. Again, if you're listening, I'm going to break it down. It's just a quote from the Fed statement last week, but it applies to us. And he said this, Fed Chairman Powell on the 15th. I'd say if you're a home buyer, somebody or a young person looking to buy a home, you need a bit of a reset. Goes on to say, we need to get back to a place where supply and demand are back together, where inflation is down low and mortgage rates are low again. Okay, so let me break this down real quick, this statement, because this is what I would use if I was talking to anybody about interest rates right now. First point, we need to get back, and I kind of drew a red box around the statement. We need to get back to a place where supply and demand are back together. Mm-hmm. They are intentionally influencing interest rates to squelch demand and to start to build supply. Okay, they want to see more of that in the market, specifically in the housing market. That is what they're doing. They've tipped their hat to what they're doing right now. Second, this is all about inflation, right? So we want to do that, and we want to get inflation low. And when we then do that, we want mortgage rates low again. Now, I would argue not in the 2% range, but lower than they are today. But that is the breakdown of what the Fed is intentionally doing right now. So if you're in real estate right now, you need to pay attention.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not here today to say, hey, there's not going to be a little bit of challenge. There might be a little bit of pain for some people. No doubt the scenario that you mentioned, you start looking at a house, $100,000, $200,000 more. Listen, we've done it. And you're like, I don't like the stuff that we looked at right here, right?
That's right.
Let's get real. But that is what the Fed is intentionally doing right now, trying to bring supply and demand back together. And listen, all of us in the business, if we get real with ourselves, it's been out of whack for the last 24 months. A lot of reasons for that. I'm going to talk about prices in a minute. I do not see a scenario where prices are falling, but all of this is about inflation. So you want to know what's going to happen, or tell me what you believe about inflation. Watch inflation. The 10-year Treasury, obviously, we're keen to that relative to interest rates, but this is what the Fed's doing.
Yeah, and it is all about supply and demand, right? We talk about pricing. It's about supply and demand. I mean, and, if the supply overtakes the demand, then the prices are going to go down, right? There is that thought, right? But the cool thing about real estate is let's say appreciation goes down. I mean, it's been 35-36% over 2 or 3 years in some markets. And wow, what if it was only 3 or 4%? It's still going up. It's still strong, you know. But that's what they're hoping to curb a little bit, because the pricing was, it was surreal for anybody that's been in the business for 12 to 20 years. It was surreal to see these bidding offers go, 26 offers, and that couldn't last forever.
Sure. Well, I mean, buying a home became an auction.
That's right. It really did. It really did. So how does this impact us? Like, how does this impact us, and how can we prepare for it, and kind of mentally, how do we deal with it, you think?
So I think right now we've got to see what's going to happen with inflation and what there are two primary causes of inflation right now. Gas, there's nobody listening to this that has any doubt about that. Just go to the gas station, unless you're working from home and never leaving. You didn't know that, but it's a big deal. Second is everything they talk about in supply chain. We need to see more goods and services flow, and we need to get the price of gas down. Now, I think what all of this portends to in the real estate market is, okay, Fed's trying to slow down the economy. If they can't engineer the soft landing, that means recession. What does that mean? And oh, by the way, the Wall Street Journal today said, headline, recession surges, fears among CEOs. And I'll read the quick tidbit. 3/4 of global CEOs say we are in a recession or will be in the next 12 to 18 months, according to their latest survey. So you want to ask me, what do I think about recession? Pretty good chance, right? I'm not here to say we're in it right now, but if we're not, we're heading to it, okay? And so that's what we have in front of us. And, ever since 2008, this word recession in the consumer's mind is taken on this fear. And I don't want to dismiss that fear. I want to say it's legitimate. People had family members that were hurt. They were hurt. They owned a home. They had to sell a home, maybe short sale or foreclosed on a home. That's real. I think we need to understand that. We need to be compassionate and listen and understand that when people hear recession, they think, you know what? Let's go back to what you just said, Michael. We're in the business. Okay, prices are through the roof right now. You can't buy a home unless you outbid by $100,000. And oh, by the way, you can't do anything. And, and all of a sudden the economy is going to slow down. That doesn't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have to be aware of that. So how do we lead people through it? So let's go back to the Fed's playbook, trying to get supply and demand in balance. We want to bring inflation down, and then interest rates will begin to come low again. We did a study, Casey, and maybe you might have seen some of the information, but I want to show this graphic because it is powerful on every recession that's happened in this country, and then what happened to interest rates. It goes all the way back to the 80s, and I'll kind of, if you're listening on the podcast, every recession you've seen interest rates drop, going all the way back to the 70s, 16% interest rate down to 11.75. Most recently in the COVID recession from 3.25 to 2.25. So we know that about recessions. We can look at that and say historically, we know that a recession causes interest rates to come down because the Fed's trying to, pour more gas on the fire and stimulate the economy. And that's exactly what's at play right now. Okay, so as we look back in history, and go back to the Fed's playbook, they're trying to bring supply and demand back in housing. They're trying to lower inflation. That's not exactly housing. And then by doing that, we will be back to a low rate environment. That's what's happening. So if I'm coaching somebody or leading somebody through this, my words would be, I can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow, but I can exactly give you the playbook of what will happen, right? We can create that certainty, Michael, within people and help them understand, okay, I've got somebody on my team that's going to guide me through this. We also did another study at Keeping Current Matters on home prices during recessions. Maybe you've seen that. But what we did is we went back and looked at the same recession. There have been 6 recessions in this country going back to the early 80s. 4 of the 6 recessions, home prices appreciated. 2 of the 6, they depreciated. Once in the early 90s, minimally by less than 2%. But what everybody remembers, I'm going to go back to as well, is 2008, when homes lost almost 20% value. So we can give expert advice through this and show them, okay, historically, here's what's happened. Now, I want to preface that. History does not always mean that's what's going to happen, but it's a pretty good indicator. You can't go in with an assumption and say, I don't think it's going to happen this time because it's happened every other time. Well, if you have an informed market opinion that you believe based on facts, I would say absolutely bring that. But we can learn a lot from history and what's happened in times like this.
Yeah, so good. I mean, one of the things that you were talking about is just like the mindset of a realtor, mindset of a lender right now. It's like, we have to realize that we were going 80 miles an hour. I mean, I just got through, we drove to Kansas City for a baseball tournament with my son, and, everybody's going 80. We're going 80, everything's going great. Well, up ahead, it's the arrow's over, and we're going to a single file line, and we're going through it, and we're actually going through it at 60 miles an hour. But it felt like it was crawling. But we were still going 60 miles an hour, but compared to 80 miles an hour, it felt really slow. And that's kind of what's happening in the market, right? Is we were going 80 miles an hour. Some people were going 100 miles an hour, and now we're going 60. It's not bad. You're still clicking along at a mile a minute, right? But it's one of those where it just feels a lot slower because of the urgency and the craziness of the previous market. This is good. Like, this is good. We're still moving
needed
forward.
This. Yeah, if we all get real, we needed it. Like it's like anything you go through your life. You want to make a change in your life? Guess what? It's gonna be a little bit of hard. There's gonna be a little bit of pain. You want to, you want to work for something. Nothing great worth having doesn't take a little bit of sacrifice, And so we're certainly in a time like that right now.
Hey, Referrals Podcast listeners, I am so excited to introduce you to Fight Camp. A lot of you have noticed that I've lost weight, that I've gotten in shape, that I look better, my face is thinner, and I have to tell you that's what makes me really excited about one of our new partners at Referrals Podcast, and that is Fight Camp. When I first started getting back into shape, my personal trainer had me grab a pair of boxing gloves just like this And I noticed that in my core, I was seeing a difference very, very quickly. And honestly, sometimes when you're early in the process, it feels great to see results quickly. And that's what I was seeing. And that's what makes Fight Camp so awesome to me. I want you to check out Fight Camp. It has thousands of workouts on the app. They're all led by experts. And they can meet with you on your own terms, right? So the beauty of this is that there are live punch stats. So you literally know how strong you're punching, how long you're punching. So you know you're getting stronger. You know you're getting quicker. And honestly, the progress is everything. I love that about it. And you can even go head to head. So you can actually box with someone that's across the world, and you have the opportunity to even like do it in a family. So Max could work on his, and then I could work and see if I could beat his best. So I love that competitiveness to it, and that's big for our family, as he's nodding his head on that. Max, what do you have to add?
This is the biggest boxing community in the world without leaving your home.
Yeah, we talk all the time on Referrals Podcast about building your tribe of trust. One thing I love about Fight Camp is they're building their tribe of trust, and they've built this large group of people who love to work out, are looking to get in shape. I want you to check out Fight Camp. You can join fightcamp.com/referral. So you get free shipping when you join Fight Camp. I hope you check it out at joinfightcamp.com/referrals. And you will get free shipping on any package that you choose. Joinfightcamp.com/referrals.
I recently fell in love with this company called palermobody because of how they've changed the way I'm finding time. Palermo wants to change everyone's perception of body care and self-care with their incredible 100% natural ingredient products. Right now, my two most favorite products are their coffee scrub and their body oil. They are 100% all natural ingredients. I love using their products because the extra moments I take for myself when I'm using them are so easy to fit into a packed day, and they really center me. Meanwhile, my skin just loves the ingredients.
And me too.
And I am totally a convert.
And so am I.
I never thought that I would use an oil after a body scrub because usually oils are so heavy on my skin. My skin is so sensitive. This is literally the first body oil that did not make me feel greasy and awful. So we partnered with them for this episode, and they are giving all of our listeners a special discount. So if you want to try the coffee scrub and the body oil that we've been talking about, all you have to do is go to palermobody.com/referrals, and Palermo is PALERMO body, BODY.com/referrals, and you get 10% off.
So I do have a question on your graph. You showed that during the recessions, in fact, all of them, the interest rate went down. Yeah. But, if we have another month of recessionary period, which it looks like we're going to, right? So all of a sudden we're 2 months in, and then we're into the definition of recession, right? And so has there been a period where we've been in recession and the interest rate has gone up, and then they've tried to cut it back and put the brakes on so that it came back down? Like all of them showed interest rate coming down, sure, right, to get out of the recession. And so, we're kind of in a weird period right now, aren't we? Where, we're actually kind of seeing some recession, and they're still raising the rate, right? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think that's the question. So typically in a recessionary period, rates go up at the beginning of the recession, but in order to get us out of it, rates move lower to stimulate the economy, right? It's that gas pedal. And listen, everybody has an opinion of that, and the administration and what's being done and all that. And I'm going to say, in that's outside of our control. Mm-hmm. Understanding housing and what happens is absolutely inside of our control. So let's take your scenario in the real world example. Typically, rates are rising going into a recession and falling coming out of it. What will be the determiner of that? We go back to where we started. It will all be about inflation. Mm-hmm. Tell me what's going to happen with inflation, and you're going to follow that. Okay. That's right. So I do think, again, the next Fed meeting, what are they going to say? Are they going to have this thing under control? And I don't think there's anybody going, you know what? I know exactly what's going to happen. Most people are like, I hope they do.
Yeah.
I hope they do.
Is gas the biggest part of this, do you think? I noticed that Biden had just gone to Saudi Arabia and kind of, not apologized, but kind of went there and tried to get them to open up the supply for more gasoline and that kind of thing.
The two drivers are fuel and supply chain.
And the supply chain's been suffering for,
that's a hangover of
4 or 5 years.
Yeah. So, but no doubt, we use the gas pump analogy. We all go there. We know it costs $100+ or whatever to fill your car up.
Yeah.
And think about that. Everything that you touch in the grocery store, in any store, has that attached to it, right? It had to get there somehow. And so it just ripples throughout the economy. And that's the hard part. I don't know if you've seen those graphics that show where is inflation truly at, and it shows fuel way up and everything else not as much. Well, oh, by the way, everything has to have fuel to get to where it's going. And so it's that. I think again, go back to inflation. I think the question that then starts to come up is, okay, what is this going to mean for our business? Mm-hmm. Somebody buying or selling a house really doesn't care how many homes we sell this year or what's going to happen.
That's right.
We care about it in our business. And I think it's important to spend just a couple of minutes on there because I think I'm seeing a lot of people say a lot of things that just aren't factually accurate. Yeah. So let me take a couple of points there. You're going to see overwhelming headlines of, the boom is over and we're entering into the great decelerating market. I'm telling you, when somebody reads deceleration in a market, they're like, that doesn't sound good, right? Or is the real estate market in a correction? I'm going to tell you this, we're in a shift right now, and I'm going to prove it here in just a minute with a couple of graphs. But we are not in a correction in the real estate market from a technical definition. The technical definition of a correction is a decline of 10% or greater in the price of a security asset or financial market. Now, if you want to change the definition of correction, you can, and we can call it a correction, but we're not in a correction.
You can look at Wall Street for the definition of a correction. They've had a correction the first quarter of this year, right?
That's exactly. That is a correction.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not in a correction in real estate.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, nobody right now is calling for a decline in home prices. Actually, average appreciation for this year is right at about 9% when you look at everybody forecasting it. Well above what we've seen historically, because we've seen, tremendous demand primarily from millennials, but there's still a lot of demand in the market. And so not a correction. Where are we heading? We're heading back to where we were pre-pandemic. Okay. And you gave a great analogy of, we're flying down the highway. You see a cop up on the hill, and you gotta slow down. Right now, the cop on the hill
is the cop. Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's exactly.
That's it. They're slowing the business down and intentionally, and again,
for safety, right? For safety and public service, right?
Totally.
That analogy works really well.
Let me show you a couple of graphs that I think will crystallize this in everybody's mind. Again, if you're listening, you can grab these. But I'll walk you through them. The first one we like to use to measure demand is showing time. In the last 2 years, showings skyrocketed. If you're looking at this graphic, it's a by-month graphic going all the way back to January of 2019, and you see the gray bars there, 2019. I'm going to right in the beginning of 2020. That's pre-pandemic demand. And then literally what this shows is the blue bars are the spike up during COVID, during the last 2 years, when we saw tremendous anomaly demand in this country. The green bar there is April. It's the latest information we have, and when we get subsequent months, they are going to be lower. But here's the bottom line: we're going back to somewhere in the neighborhood of pre-pandemic demand. Which, oh, by the way, 2017, 2018, 2019, each year were the best years in real estate that we had following the crash of 2008. There were great years in real estate. So if you're looking at your production right now, comparing it to, whatever month, May or June of last year, you need to probably compare it to 2019. And I'm not saying give up on your goals. Don't hear me say that at all. But you have to realize that the anomaly of the last few years was tremendous demand. And then we saw the sales from that. We mentioned the auction scenario that came with that. But I want to give you another piece.
David, before you skip, I just have to tell you, this is an astounding graphic because there were less homes to show and we were doing virtual showings. So the fact of the matter is that the showings went up that much is just astounding because there was just less to see, and we weren't actually going to the house a lot of times to see it. I mean, we were making offers sight unseen in some cases.
Well, I'll give you another example of how the world was upside down. Towards the end of last year, the number of people that said it's a good time to buy a home fell to an all-time low. Guess what happened last year too? We bought more homes than we ever had.
Than ever, right?
Yeah. So both of those things are true. If you really want to talk about, the upside down nature of the market. But let me show you this next one because this speaks to the top line news, kind of headline talking head. Existing home sales are down. Well, again, 2017, 18, 2019, existing home sales around 5.5 million, 5.3 million, and then we shot up. Mm-hmm. Okay, during the pandemic, sold 6.1 million existing homes in 2021. As of April of this past year, forecasted to sell 5.6 million, somewhere in that pre-pandemic range. This is all about the market slowing down, getting back to those pre-pandemic ranges, which again, I'm going to remind everybody, were great, great years in residential real estate.
If you follow that graph, we can almost expect like 5.5 next year, 5.3 the next 2 years after that, 5.5 million homes, 5.3 million. How many does a realtor need to do to really do well, right? I mean, like, there's nobody doing 5.2 million homes a year that I know of. Do you? So one person isn't dominating all of them. Right. There's plenty of homes to be sold. There's plenty of clients to be working with. Right?
I think in that point, here's what I would say. We are entering a shift and turn in the market. That is it. And one of two things is going to happen with agents across the country. They're either going to back off or they're either going to take that turn, because if you start to follow the information, what we're going to see is the economy slow down. Likely, again, let's go back to that survey. We are going to enter in a recession. Rates are going to be high and come down. Homeowners today, a fact, are flush with cash, right?
Equity, too.
I would be preparing for that. I'm not saying don't do anything right now. Prepare for that market. Enter this shift. I would be out there delivering this information, marketing, doing everything that I need to do, because that's the next turn coming in real estate. If you want to look down the racetrack, so to speak, and see what's ahead.
Yeah, I think that nails it on a head. I mean, you went back to the fear word, and there honestly, media,
totally.
Wall Street Journal,
fear sells.
Journal, yeah, and even influencers out there are using the fear for clickbait to sell stuff. I mean, honestly, so a lot of it's being pushed out there. But I love what you said about fear being something that we need to acknowledge and embrace and just like accept, because I have several acronyms for the word fear, right? And one of them is for everyone a reality. Just realize that with this shift, with any change, you're going to experience fear of the unknown, right? But you have the ability to see fear as one of two acronyms. You can see it as forget everything and run. You literally forget all these skills and talents you had before, and you run away. You run and say the sky is falling, and you run right out of the business. And then there are the others who see fear as face everything and rise. Yeah. And it's like, you know what? I'm going to face it. I'm not sure what I'm facing. It looks a little cloudy right now. It's like a smoke screen, but I'm going to rise up. And rise really means level up our skills and our conversation. We didn't need all the greatest scripts in the world before, because all it was is buyers were selling themselves and homes were selling themselves, and we didn't have to have any conversation. The market created buyer urgency, right? And the sellers were happy, and the buyer that got the home was happy. Yeah. So face everything and rise is really important, because we need to level up our game. We need to
Yeah.
be more skilled. We need to,
Yeah.
to learn how to use the tools of the business, like
You
keeping
know, there are a lot of folks, and there was even an article written in the last few weeks, and I can't remember where it was at. It was like, hey, the first rule of a housing bubble is you don't talk about it, right?
like
My
Fight Club.
advice,
Yeah.
it would be talk to people about this, because guess
conversation.
what? They're thinking about it. Everybody, that's out there is going, okay, what's going to happen? And here's the great thing. We have the opportunity to help lead people through that, right? Looking at what's happened, understanding, being a student of our business, and getting out there and saying, okay, this is what's happening. Okay. In times of uncertainty, we always say this, people follow the certain.
That's right.
And being certain about what's going to happen is a difference maker today.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, that's honestly, I'm excited about the coming market, because I'm such a believer in referrals and relationships and, trust and credibility. When the times get tough, who do people turn to? They turn to people who they can trust and have credibility. And instead, back then, it was like lowest buyer, lowest seller, low. They would list with the person who charged them the least in some cases, right? And sometimes that actually worked. But in a market like this, you know what? They're going to pay for great service, and they're going to go with the person they trust, and the person they heard was good, and that feeds the word of mouth and referral business. And only increase. Like I said, my best year ever was 2009, when it was the worst real estate market in Kansas City history. Yeah. Why? Referrals. We could not even keep up with the referrals. We were getting 2 or 3 a day. So it's one of those where I love it. You've hit it on the head. And any final words of wisdom around, like, what should we be doing right now, or what should we be saying right now, or how should we be feeling right now? Any words of wisdom on the real estate?
I think I've thought a lot about this over the last few days. Just in there, the thing that I love about being able to spend this time with you is talking to leaders in the business. And if you're listening to this, my first piece of advice would be careful who you're listening to. Be careful what you're reading. Be careful what you're believing. Whether that old saying, everything you think, you can't believe everything you think. We're moving from a market. And I just want to set this perspective for folks listening. We're moving from a market that was impossible, meaning there were people that dropped out of buying a home because they said, we can't do it. Okay? Exactly. And we're moving into a market that is more difficult. I'm not suggesting that there's not going to be some pain and some things that happen in the future. Not saying that at all. But most people would take more difficult over impossible any day of the week. And so be aware of that. And I think as leaders, what we share with our team, what we share with everybody that we're working with, is to have that mindset. Yeah, we're entering into a time where the business got a little bit more difficult, and very real reasons for that. But it's not what it was, which is impossible. And we needed to see that shift. Yeah,
that's beautiful. Beautiful. And David, I mean, what a great update on what is going on. It literally one of the top topics out there, not just in the real estate and lending world, but with consumers. And here's the thing, are realtors and lenders shying away from that conversation that's taking place? Or are they leaning in and becoming a leader within that conversation and being a part of that conversation? It doesn't mean you know everything. The worst thing I see is when I see a lender or a realtor like start speaking exacts on the future. It's like, oh no, interest rates are going to come back down by Christmas, or interest rates are going to go to 12, or what. It's like, you don't know that. The Fed doesn't even know that. They're going,
they'd like to know that, right?
Yeah, wouldn't it be great? They could handle this forever. But as always, you just nailed it with the wisdom today. And I love bringing you on every 3 or 4 months, because things change every three or 4 months. Those of you that are listening that are realtors and lenders, you gotta check out Keeping Current Matters. I think every single one of my coaching clients is a client of Keeping Current Matters. I thought a couple of my lenders were not, but they actually were. In our conversation. We were talking about HomeBot and some other stuff. And it's one I can't recommend it enough, especially in times like this. This is a great time to be a Keeping Current Matters client, because what is current matters? It's the real estate market right now, So you help them have conversations around this material, and those conversations lead to conversions, and those conversions lead to contracts, and that's how we do the business. So I just really want to say thank you once again for being a special guest and repeat guest.
Well, listen, I always enjoy the time that we get to spend together. Grateful for your belief in what we do at KCM. And listen, all of that centers around the best agents, the best loan officers, the best experts in the business are educated on what's happening. They're not fortune tellers like what you said. They're educated, and they can guide people the best possible way. So grateful for it, grateful for all that you do, and grateful to spend this time together.
Yeah, thank you so much, David. I appreciate that. And listeners, viewers, I appreciate you as well. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Once again, I have to say, if you haven't checked out joingengen.com, check it out. Join the generosity generation. What better way to go through the uncertainty than with a group of like-minded people who are building their business based on love, generosity, and appreciation? We're here to help. I am here to help. Joingengen.com, and also check out rms22.com. That's Referral Mastery Summit. We're bringing our flagship event to Orlando, Florida in September. Check it out at rms22.com. And once again, if you like what you heard today, do us a favor, share it, let others know about it. But the bottom line is just know how much we appreciate you watching today, listening today, and all the downloads that David shared with you today and me today will be shared with you at the download at referralspodcast.com. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode of Referrals Podcast. You got to tune in. We got some of the most amazing guests coming. I cannot wait to share those with you. Tune in. We'll see you next time.